Well, the Financial Intelligence Centre wants to step up the fight against money laundering and terrorism funding. It wants to expand FICA compliance requirements to include small businesses. But the SA Institute of Chartered Accountants are not happy with the proposed changes. Let's find out why, as we're joined by SAICA's Juanita Steenekamp this morning. Juanita, good morning. Good to have you with us. Why are you not happy with the proposed changes?
Thanks, Gareth. I first need to state that the accounting industry definitely supports the FIC's proposal to curb money laundering. Of course, we cannot not support this good cause. As a profession, we're also working with our members to identify and deal with what we refer to as non-compliance to laws and regulations. So we're already doing work with regard to that. But the proposals that they've proposed say that if you carry on a business and you provide certain services to a client, and then they go into specific creation, operation, or management of a company, you're creating a trust arrangement, then you would be classified as an accountable institution. So as soon as you're an accountable institution, then you have to implement certain processes to manage the risk of money laundering. You'd need to carve out these transactions and apply the FIC's compliance requirements, similar to dealing with a bank. So as an accountant, you would have to follow the whole process of know your customer, perform the customer due diligence, identify politically exposed people. So there's a whole host of additional obligations that would apply.
I know the banking sector talks about know your customer and they refer to it as KYC. So as I was wondering what that is, it's KYC. If you've heard banks talking about it, that's what they actually mean. Juanita, the list I see, though, as accountable institutions, I can't read all of them. There's just too many here. But obviously we would imagine things like credit providers. That would be an obvious one as well. Estate agents is interesting to me. Dealers in crypto assets, that's another one because heavens knows what cryptocurrency actually is. Dealers, and this is an important one, dealers in goods over 100,000 Rand. That's pretty much anybody who owns even a small business these days. So essentially, these changes are going to affect everyone across the board.
Yes. So in the parliamentary hearings on Tuesday, one of the other presenters mentioned the fact that if you go and buy a bicycle, a specialized bicycle, can cost over 100,000 Rand. So yes, it will affect lots of people.
And so what do you now hope as far as amendments are concerned or changes to the amendments? If someone is listening now and you just mentioned Parliament, what do you want them to actually change? They come to you and say, all right, Juanita, we saw you talking to Gareth. What do you want us to actually change?
Okay. Gareth, so in our view, there's just a lack of clarity. We want to know when are you scoped in and when would you not be scoped in. So the extensions and the proposals that you mentioned are very broad. We would just like clarity that the normal work that an accountant do, preparing of the financial statements, preparing your tax return, doing the audit of the financial statements, that would not be included in what they refer to in specifically the creation, operation, or management of a business or a company. So those type of things we require clarity. And of course, there's the whole issue of unregulated accountants and services. The accountancy industry as such is not regulated. We've got certain accountants regulated by professional bodies, but there's a whole host of them that are not regulated. So we would need to look at how the FIC would be regulating them. And of course, it is going to be a huge administrative burden in terms of costs. If the accountants have to pay more, somebody has to pay more for our fees as well.
Well, you say someone, somewhere, what you mean is clients, of course. Someone's going to have to pick up that bill. And if the conditions coming in for businesses as small as 100,000 Rand and it's a KYC involved as well, because quite rightly, chartered accountants have to charge for everything that they do as well. What kind of increase in cost could a customer see? If you had to think off the top of your head, Juanita, what kind of impact could there be financially on a customer?
Okay. Gareth, we haven't done like a cost-benefit analysis as yet, but again in Parliament, one of the other service providers said that from an insurance perspective, for every client, they have to follow this know your customer process. They refer the ID to a service provider, and I think he mentioned an amount of 1,500 Rand per client to confirm that this person is the right person linked to this ID number.
Just before
and that's just in terms of this.
Just before I say goodbye to you, I just realised now this probably has something to do with the interview I did last week regarding grey listing here in South Africa. A lot of institutions are concerned about this potential grey listing. If I remember the conversation correctly, this kind of amendment and the chance of grey listing will probably make trading with South Africa very difficult and probably more expensive as well. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yes, you are. So if these transactions or these proposals do not go through, then we have the we might be grey listed, and that is the problem. So that's why this has to go through. I think the FIC is proposing somewhere end of this year for this to actually be implemented, because we have to report back to the FATF by early next year. So that is why there's quite an urgency to these amendments.
Yeah, certainly is. The 19th of August, before you know it, we're going to be putting up Christmas trees as well. So there isn't much time and months left in the year. Juanita, I appreciate your time helping me understand this. SAICA's Juanita Steenekamp joining us as well. If you want to know what the acronym stands for, in case you forgot, South African Institute of Chartered Accountants.